So I wanted to talk about this case with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. A lot of you guys have probably heard of this before or heard of this recently because this is reasonably big news in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community right now. So Jehovah's Witnesses, now, as far as I know, I've listened to some of this case as it goes on. I'm a little bit underinformed on it, though, so I'm going to be learning as I read this with you. As far as I know, Jehovah's Witnesses are trying to sue Reddit to get this person's name, to get their real name. The reason is because on the XJW subreddit, this person named Dark Spilver is the username they go by, posted this Jehovah's Witness advertisement, and it was kind of in meme form, I guess. It completely clearly fit under fair use. But Jehovah's Witnesses are trying to sue for this guy's name so that they can go at him with a DMCA, basically, is what they're saying. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation has picked up the case, and it seems obvious to everybody that really Jehovah's Witnesses' goal in this whole thing is just to get the guy's name so they can disfellowship him, which is really, really messed up, and it's an abuse of the copyright system. That's not what it's intended for. And so the Electronic Frontier Foundation is pretty much defending this guy and took on the case to try to prevent the Watchtower Society from winning. So let's just give some of this a little read and see what it has to say. So here's what it says. A fight over unmasking an anonymous Reddit commenter has turned into a significant win for online speech and fair use. A federal court has affirmed the right to share copyrighted material for criticism and commentary and shot down arguments that internet users from outside the U.S. can't ever rely on the First Amendment protections for anonymous speech. EFF, which is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, represents the Reddit commenter who uses the name Dark Spilver. A lifelong member of the Jehovah's Witness community, Dark Spilver shared comments and concerns about the Jehovah's Witness organization via one of Reddit's online discussion groups. Dark Spilver's posts included a copy of an advertisement asking for donations that appeared on the back of a Watchtower magazine, as well as a chart they edited and reformatted to show the kinds of data that the Jehovah's Witness organization collects and processes. Now, there are some issues with how Jehovah's Witnesses collect and process data, and we're going to get to that in a minute. I just wanted to address a little bit of this first. Earlier this year, the Watchtower Society subpoenaed Reddit for information on Dark Spilver as part of a potential copyright lawsuit. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, a group that publishes doctrines for Jehovah's Witnesses, claimed that Dark Spilver's posts infringed on their copyright. Man, in this dude's case, I'd be so glad that I didn't have just like an awful name. Just like Dark Spilver is kind of a strange name, but it's not like horrifically terrible. It's not like I love dicks or something like that. So now you've got this dude that's like going around that, wearing a username that says I love dicks everywhere, and it's like plastered all over the news. That would have been hilarious, but terrible. Anyway, Jehovah's Witnesses claimed that Dark Spilver's posts infringed their copyright and that they needed Dark Spilver's identity to pursue legal action. EFF filed a motion to quash the subpoena, explaining that Watchtower's copyright claims were absurd and that Dark Spilver had deep concerns that disclosure of their identity would cause them to be disfellowshipped by their community, which is a well-founded fear. I mean, that's exactly what would happen. Accordingly, Watchtower's subpoena could not pass the well-established Doe test, quote-unquote, which allows a party to use the courts to pierce anonymity only where they can show that their claims are valid and also that the balance of harms favors disclosure. The Doe test is designed to balance the constitutional right to share and access information anonymously with the right to seek redress for legitimate complaints. Interesting. So basically, a decision was made in this case. we're right near the bottom, so let me just finish reading this up and we'll see what it has to say. In a hearing earlier this month, Watchtower argued that they met the requirements of the Doe test, claiming that their copyright was infringed and also that the Doe test did not apply because Dark Spilver is not a U.S. resident. On Friday, May 17th, Magistrate Judge Sally Kim rejected the latter argument, holding that the First Amendment can apply even if a Doe is not in the U.S. The court noted that because Dark Spilver's speech was on U.S. company's platform and has a U.S. audience, silencing them would have unavoidable domestic ripple effects. Well said. As Judge Kim explained, the subpoena here was issued by a court in the United States on behalf of a United States company, Watchtower, and was directed against another United States company, Reddit. Moreover, the First Amendment protects the audience as well as the speaker. I'm really glad to hear that it turned out that way. But from what I understood, we haven't gotten to the bottom yet, but I heard that it's a double-edged sword and that there were some bad to go along with the good. So let's keep reading. The court also rejected Watchtower's claim of infringement regarding the Excel spreadsheet. It held that Watchtower had potentially valid claim with respect to the advertisement, but went on to conclude that Dark Spilver's use was likely lawful under the fair use doctrine. The court carefully reviewed the fair use factors and concluded that they tip sharply in Dark Spilver's favor. We wholeheartedly agree. I completely agree too. It's totally fair use. I mean, I deal with fair use every day of my life. I deal with fair use against the Watchtower Society even because I use their videos and their advertisements and everything all the time, and they're not coming after me. I mean, I just finished making a Caleb and Sophia video. I used the entirety of the video. Now, I split it up into clips, and that puts it into fair use territory. But an advertisement? Why did they pick an advertisement to go after this one guy? This guy doesn't have a platform. He's not a public figure. Why did they go after him instead of somebody like me or Lloyd Evans or some other public apostate figure? It's really weird. And it's also bad news for me that they're coming after people like that, because they could come after me conceivably. But this is the type of thing that I would expect to see from Scientology, for example. That's the type of fear tactics and intimidation tactics that Scientology employs. It's all about getting the guy's name in the end. They don't care about what was released. They care about getting the guy's name so they can disfellowship him. Okay, let's continue reading. But we disagree with the court's final decision. This is the EFF talking. To order limited disclosure so that Watchtower might attempt to shore up its copyright claim. While the court agreed that Watchtower has not demonstrated any actual harm or likelihood of future harm, the fourth fair use factor, it gave undue credence to Watchtower's claim that the harm it suffered from people infringing on its copyrights was directing others away from its website. Based on the theory that perhaps Watchtower, if provided the opportunity, could demonstrate that fewer people visited its website after Dark Spilver's posting, the court decided to allow Watchtower's counsel access to Dark Spilver's identifying information. That's heartbreaking. The court decided to allow Watchtower's counsel access to Dark Spilver's identifying information. The counsel. Not Watchtower, but the council. Unfortunately, the council is Watchtower. It's made up of Watchtower Society lawyers. They're Jehovah's Witnesses. They work in the compounds. There's absolutely no way that Watchtower Society doesn't have the guy's name now. Based on the court's approach, the Doe standard offers weak protections for fair users. Even a far-fetched theory regarding a particular fair use factor, like the one posited here, might be enough to justify disclosure, even if the rest of the fair use analysis clearly suggests the use was lawful. That said, the disclosure is subject to strict limits. Reddit may disclose it only to Watchtower's counsel of record, and that counsel is prohibited from sharing that information with anyone else, including the client, without a separate court order. In addition, the court explicitly admonished that any violation of this order will be sanctioned. Unfortunately, they know who the guy is now, and they're going to watch him and wait for him to do something that they can disfellowship him for. As far as I'm concerned, this, they have the name, and they're going to disfellowship the guy as a result now, period. They will find a reason. They're going to dig through his life, every part of his life, until they find some reason to do it. Okay, this is the last paragraph. This case touches on a lot of EFF's most important issues, and it's a prime example of how intellectual property, free speech, and privacy can intersect in complicated ways, making it hard for people to speak out about controversial issues. We're considering next steps, but in the meantime, we are also celebrating a crucial win for the First Amendment and access to anonymous speech for internet users everywhere. So it's good news and it's bad news. We've seen some good and some bad. It's disappointing that they gave the guy's name to Watchtower Society lawyers, because now the Watchtower Society has it. I understand they said it's going to, they're going to get sanctioned and all that. They don't care. They don't care about the law. They care about Jehovah and his law. And they've straight up said that. Jehovah comes first, always. So I'm pretty concerned to see what happens. But either way, there were some wins. So we can walk away reasonably happy with the wins we got.